Welcome to another episode of Follow the Brand TV. I am your host, Grant Mcgaugh, CEO of 5-Star BDM, a 5-star personal brand and business development company. I want to take you on a journey through another deep dive into the world of personal branding and business development using compelling personal stories, business conversations, and tips to improve your brand. By listening to the Follow the Brand TV series, you will differentiate yourself from the competition and build trust with prospective clients and employers. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. Make it one that will set you apart, build confidence, and reflect who you are. Building your 5-star personal brand is a great way to improve your skills and knowledge. If you have any questions for me or any of my guests, please email me at grant.mcgaugh@5starbdm.com. Now, let's begin with our next episode on the Follow the Brand TV. There she is. How are you doing, Daphne?
I'm great, Grant. How are you? Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday. As it is Sunday, we're going to have a great conversation about wisdom, knowledge, and experience. Something I've learned a lot from you. I'm one of your fans, right? I am on the Daphne E. Jones team. I got introduced to you earlier this year through a mutual friend of ours, Jerome
Yep.
Hutchinson. You came on the show. You're telling me, "Hey, Grant, I'm coming out with a book. I want to come on your show. We're going to talk about, a book that you're releasing because you've had a storied career in business that I want to again share." So the first thing I want to ask you, the first question I want to ask you is, why did you write the book?
I wrote the book, and hello, everybody. Welcome to Grant Show. It's an honor and privilege to be here and say hello to all of you. I wrote the book because it was partially a story about my life and how I have myself been sown seeds of misdirection, I call it. Misdirection had been sown into my spirit, into my mind by people who were supposed to look out for my welfare. And I'll give you the case in point where my high school counselor told me when I was thinking about going to college, he said, "Daphne, Black girls like you don't go to college. They become secretaries. You will never make it in college. And if you do happen to make it by some odd chance, no one's really going to hire you." And I realized not then, but later, that I represented a Black face that did not represent the face of business. Carnegie's, the Mellons, the Rockefellers, the DuPonts, they didn't look like this. And so industry was not made for me or by me. So he said, "Go play it safe. Go do what I know you're going to be able to do, which is be a secretary." Well, that happens to a lot of women and a lot of people of color in general. Women are told, girls can't do math. Girls shouldn't do science. Black men can't become CEO of hedge funds or, whatever it is. There's downward pressure on our ability to achieve. And so I saw it and I was like done with it because those seeds of misdirection, when planted, grow up with us and they become tall trees of imposter syndrome. And then when you have imposter syndrome, you're stuck, you're paralyzed, you doubt yourself, you have fear, you have uncertainty. And then the ability for us to be great and have our greatness be a contributing factor to the growth of the country or the world, it's stymied. And so I had to write the book to say, you know what, if this little Black girl from Jamaica living in a poor town called Phoenix, Illinois, can make it to the top of corporate America and stay there, anybody can do it. And I had to share not only what I did, but how I did it.
Well, I tell you, one thing I noticed right off the bat when I sat down with you, speaking with you, as well as seeing you in person, was that you exude executive presence. when you take the stage, it becomes apparent that you have a certain, I don't know if it's a je ne sais quoi, it's just a personality, it's something that it's a grabber that people listen to you. What would you say is that your particular, skill set? What are you leveraging to get people to buy into your leadership style?
Well, I'm gonna use a book that helped me to know that these things matter. Because first of all, you have to know that it's like when your mom or your grandma would put a plate of food in front of you. If it didn't look good, it might have been good for you, but if it wasn't cute and didn't have an attractiveness to it, it would be hard for you to want to eat it, right? And so I've had to learn through Harvey Coleman. I'm gonna give Harvey Coleman all the credit in the world that because he wrote the book Organization Games Revealed, Empowering Yourself. He helped us to realize that when you just do your performance every single day, that is good. That's important for you to always beat your goals, beat your objectives, come in under budget, come in earlier than you thought you would. But it's also about your image. And your image is your emotional intelligence. And I heard somebody on an earlier Black Business Olympics show talking about people don't care how much you know, they care about how you make them feel. And so I had to learn that my goal was to find the win-win. What's in it for me? What's in it for my audience? And be able to have the image of that individual that cares about how other people will win. And so performance is important, yes, but Harvey Coleman taught us that image is important and exposure is important. But to answer your question, the I in PI, the I for image, is really what mattered to me. And so my style of leadership is direct, but it's also humble, and it's also caring about how the other person feels. Because otherwise you don't want to have an enemy. You made them feel so bad, they're going to try to get you back. No, you want to both be looking at the enemy who is outside the company, or the enemy is competition. The enemy is not each other. So how do you do that so you have a team that's working with you and not against you? And that's emotional intelligence, I think, helps to do that.
Well, you've done it at a high level that you've worked on. You've worked at corporations like General Electric or GE Healthcare. You've been at Hospira, which was Pfizer, and everybody remembers Pfizer because they had the vaccine that came out. You have been on a lot of these corporate board, not even on the corporate boards, but I'm saying you're in the executive positions. Now, a lot of people I know, they've got a BA. A lot of people have an MBA. You got in and took it to where I'm going to take technology as my path forward, knowing you're Black, knowing you're a woman, knowing that this is not the traditional look and feel of what leadership looks like from a technology standpoint in these large corporations like IBM. Take me through how you begin to get your confidence. You knew that you could compete at that level.
You know what? They say that you're supposed to be like a duck swimming on the water. You're paddling like this, but you look cool and calm because hey, hi, what's going on? But underneath you're like that. So that's what really happened. You never let them see you sweat. But I don't know. I've always been that person who has been stubborn. And my mother always said to me, whoever has your mind, Daphne, has you. And I look at myself as being the one that got away. When I did something different than what my high school counselor said that I could do, when he told me, you will not win over there, you will only win over there, and I end up winning over here, I realized that what people say to me, and no matter how hard they make things for me, if I put my mind to it, I'll be able to do it. And so I didn't realize how hard being in STEM was going to be for me. I just didn't know. I mean, I just said, I want to work for IBM. I didn't know that was my first company after I graduated from college. I had no idea that IBM was STEM. I wasn't that smart. I just knew that IBM was one of the baddest companies in the world. And I wanted to work for the baddest company in the world because I was told that I would never amount to much by my high school counselor. And then you put it together, I'm like, oh my God, there's all these white people here. and there's only one woman in the bullpen, and there's all these men. And I just didn't know, but I was there, and I learned that impossible is not the word, it's inevitable. So I had to keep remembering and reminding myself that whatever somebody says is impossible, no matter how if they show me it's impossible, I can control my own narrative. And I can, even though I do work for somebody, I wasn't self-employed at IBM, I still had the ability to respond in ways that was going to help me win. And in being in STEM, when you walk into the room, you're the only one, you're the only woman, or you're the only Black woman for sure. And you just say that your goal is bigger than the obstacles in front of you. These barriers that people try to place in front of you, they're trying to stop you. The word try, it's the word try that's there. They're trying to stop you. Well, if you let them, then they win. But if you say, you know what, I'm not going to let this barrier stop me, then you win. And then when you win, you're able to bring other people along with you to show them the way that here's how you can also win. So, Grant, I wasn't that smart. I didn't know I was getting into STEM until I was in it.
Well, I tell you, you did a great job, because you have to have a certain type of skill set, right? You talk about skill set, mindset, and mindset, skill set, and tool set. The tool set, and we talked about earlier about this. I love how you frame this, because when you're in technology and you're talking about programs and you're talking about products, walk us through that first time that you actually got noticed from other senior level managers because of something you were working on, and what did you leverage to get there?
Well, I believe that you can do something that's called scaling the glass cliff. The glass cliff is where there's a big opportunity that's in front of you that is very difficult. It's very visible, and if you don't do a good job, you'll scale off that cliff and you'll go down in a big thud. Your career dies. But if you do well and you just lift yourself up and you just keep soaring, then you win. So I ended up taking on a pretty big project that was very, very, very difficult. And part of my mindset was that I have not learned all I can. I have not achieved all I can. I am going to use all the resources that I have in my power and next to me, and I'm going to use those to be able to win. And so having the right mindset that says I can do these things, and using the tool sets that I had in front of me allowed me to be able to get promoted. I did things that people say was impossible, and I made them inevitable. Part of my job as a leader is to what I call make the complex simple. So when a company said to me, Daphne, being able to look at profitability in a just-in-time manner is impossible. We have to wait until the following February to understand the profitability of this company. I'm like, no, that's not true. You have the data, even though it's international data. There's data from Europe, data from Asia, data from the US, data from Latin America, LATAM countries. The data is still in our technology, and we own the technology, we own the system. So there's got to be a way to do it. And so I was able to break down the approach in a very simple way to help the people in Europe. And one of the reasons why people said it was impossible was that the US always goes first with these projects. There's US, then there's Europe goes second, then Asia might go third, then Latin America might go fourth. I said, you know what, we're going to mix this up. We're going to let Europe go first, because Europe was the ones that had the biggest issue with showing their profitability data. And so just simplifying the approach, doing a what's in it for me approach really helped Europe get on board. They knew they were going to be first. And then I was able to then have US be second, and then the other regions came in fourth. So making the complex simple, finding the what's in it for me, I think was also important. Having the mindset that says I can do, all things, this is Sunday, I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. And those kind of things really, really helps. And so now when I did it that one time, you talked about mindset, tool set, then there's a skill set. So the mindset was open mindset, growth mindset. I used the tool set of being able to help other people in a logical, consistent way. And then now the skill set is mine. I can do that over and over and over again. So it's a skill set that I end up having for life, not just being able to deploy it that one time, but being able to deploy it consistently and continually.
Well, confidence. When you win, you gain confidence.
You
Now you got
do.
confidence, not only your confidence, but you have confidence from others around you because you won, the team wins, and they want more of that. It's like, now put her in at quarterback. We want her to go
Yeah,
ahead and take us to
yeah,
the goal line because she's
right.
good. Now, here's my question.
And that's part of image. Remember, we talked
Yeah,
about
right.
performance, image, and exposure.
Yeah,
The image says, is Daphne a winner? Does she create winners? Does she help us win? And if the answer is yes, then you're right. Let's have some more of that.
we got to have more of that. We got to have more. Now you're operating. We can see how you're operating at the executive level. You're getting in now to the SVP role. You're becoming the leader as a CIO, Chief Information Officer, because you have to communicate to the business about technology, which they're not always savvy about. They're savvy about operations, they're savvy about marketing, they're savvy about finance. You go into that boardrooms, right? And then I have that board discussion. How did you begin to change the language, the alignment, and communicate to a level that you're now on the board? Help us talk to us through that
Well, I'll
episode.
say this to everybody. The language of the business is, let's say it's finance. There's more than just finance, but finance is one of the most important aspects to the business. And instead of me talking to anybody about how many systems we have or how a system's going to go down potentially tomorrow or next Thursday or cybersecurity, if you put the conversation in terms of the impact to the bottom line, if you look at it in terms of the impact to the customers who give you the revenue on the top line, and you're able to talk in the language of finance, then people understand, oh, so if we don't replace these systems, you mean that they could go down and our customers may not be able to order from us, or we may not be able to manufacture on the shop floor because we need the manufacturing execution systems to be working. Then they understand that. So it's about getting to the bottom line of what people most care about. Boards care about the same thing. Boards care about the financial capability of the company. They also care about the compliance of the company. Are we doing things in a compliant way, or are we just trying to make money no matter how we make it? No, we need to make it, and we need to make it fairly and legally and morally well. And then the shareholder or the board members care about the shareholders. They care about the community. And so now we're looking at, how do you make sure that the company that I am on the board for, how do we make sure that they're doing things that aren't going to hurt the environment? That's where you get into climate change. And so it's all about understanding what is in the minds of who you're talking to and meet them where they are. If you meet them where they are, if they're at the finance level, then you got to meet them at finance. If they're at the customer intimacy level and they care about customer, you got to meet them there. It may mean you have to do some homework. You may have to read up on it. I'm taking a course on climate change right now because I don't know all there is to know, nor will I know all there is to know about climate change. But I know that as a board member, that the SEC and other regulatory agencies are going to want to know, how are my companies that I'm on the board of, how are they treating the environment? And so that's how you do it. Know who you're talking to, meet them where they are. And in cases of most of us, it's about knowing how to talk the business of finance.
Now, is that what you're doing with you? You have a company now called the Board Curators. Talk
Yeah,
talk to us about your business. What are you doing in that respect?
sure. And the website is www.theboardcurators.com. And when I joined the three boards that I'm on, again, when I think about my background and how I didn't almost make it to college because I was told these things. And I said, you know what? I made it. Here, let me tell you other people how to do it. Well, the same thing with the boards. I made it onto the boards, and boards are changing in their demographics. They're becoming more female. Well, there's more female that are joining boards. The S&P 500 has, I think, all of them on. There's 100% participation of women on every one of those boards. And so the boards are changing. No longer is it only CEOs and CFOs only as white men. It's also CIOs and chief legal officers and HR leaders are joining boards because the complexity of issues that boards have are not just finance and operations. It's talent management. People are quietly quitting, right? And there's the whole notion around what's happened with our talent. There's the issue of supply chain disruption. So CEOs and CFOs don't know everything there is to know about talent and supply chain and activist investors and whatnot. And so my job right now with the board curators is to take these folks who are the non-traditional people, the people of color, the women who are going to start infiltrating these boards because they have more than just CEO or CFO knowledge. They have knowledge of a lot of things that the board is going to have to contend with. And so my company helps curate them to being board ready. There's nothing worse, in my opinion, than having a person who's of color or is a woman, and she joins a board because she's a woman and she has some skill, and she gets on that board and doesn't know how to act. She doesn't know that her job is not operations anymore. Her job is oversight and governance and asking really tough and skeptical questions. And so our job is to help people know, what is a board? Why does a board exist? And who serves on a board? What does a board do? And what is the different committees on the board? And how do I show myself as being discoverable on LinkedIn? And how do I make sure I have a good bio? And all of those things that are required to get you ready to join a board is what my company does.
Well, that is a very, very good skill to have, knowledge to have, because you've got to first, you got to believe in yourself and then understand, what your responsibility is if you do get on the board. One thing that you brought up, and I love how you frame this, you call it learn, do, transform. That has been a journey for you. And there was another thing I love. Now I'm going to put this into at the same time. It's like always reiterations of yourself as a version. Talk us through your framework of thinking around those two things.
Sure. Well, I have in my book, When They Say You Won't, I have a framework. As again, I may have said this, that I don't want to just motivate people and inspire people to know that they can win. I want to show them how to win. And the way to win is through this 4-step process called EDIT, EDIT. But before I go there, I get into the mindset that says, I want everybody who's listening to reimagine yourself and think of yourself as a product. Act like a product, but think like a product manager. And if you act like a product and think like a product manager, you will realize that just like a product, you have a marketplace. That marketplace could be your customers. That marketplace could be your boss. It could be your employees. It could be all of the above. But there are people who want what you have to offer, right? And that's what the marketplace is all about. There are people that want what you have. If you look at being a product has value. There's nothing that I try to have in my house or that I use or wear that I don't think is valuable. And that value has a price. You have a price. That price is called compensation. You get your salary, you get your stock options or your restricted stock or whatever you have. That is what you get every single month or year. And if your value is much, much lower than your price, then you're not going to be in that market very long because your people are overpaying for what you're offering. So you have to then find a way to level up and be like an app, if you will, on the iPhone. The iPhone is at version 16 of iOS. And if you think like a product, you say, well, how do I get to be a new version of myself? How do I remain relevant to the marketplace? iPhone didn't always have a flashlight, I don't think, but now it has a flashlight. I don't know if it always had a camera, but now it has a camera. It has so many things because it kept leveling up itself. And if you think like a product, you will say, you know what? I'm going to level up myself and be relevant and be valuable for a long time. Many people get into a company and they just kind of sit there. And meanwhile, the company is moving forward and they're not. Don't be like a carton of milk that has an expiration date. We want you to make sure that you continue to grow and grow. So when you look at the EDIT framework, EDIT stands for envision, design, iterate, and transform. And so when you envision yourself being another level, envision yourself owning your own company, envision yourself being a better spouse for your spouse or a better partner. or being a better parent. Find a way to see where you are and envision being somewhere else. Envision being somewhere else. So that's the envision stage. And I talk you through how do you do that in a way that is aligned with your purpose and your passions. So that's E. The D says, well, now that I know where I'm going, I need to put a plan to get there. I mean, if you're going to take a trip to California, you just don't say, oh, I'm going to go to California and don't put a plan in to drive there. You're going to have to do all the things to put in your plan about the car, about the tires, about where you're going to stop along the way. So your D is for design. You design a plan to get you there. The I says, all right, let me get in the car and start driving to California. Let me get in and start becoming that leader that I want to be. Let me start becoming a better speaker. So you iterate on that plan that you created. If something goes wrong, you don't quit. If something very negative happens to you, you don't cry, you don't give up. You just find a way to put that information back into your plan and you keep it moving. And then to your question, Grant, about learn, do, transform, you are then have made it. You have put in the work, because to win takes work. You put in the work and now you have become that new leader. You have become a better spouse. Let's say you become a new senior vice president, like I became a new board member. I had to, even though I didn't know everything about being a board, they put me in as a board member, but I was a baby board member. So then I sit there at Transform. I had to learn how to be a board member. What does a board member do? What time does the 8 o'clock board meeting really start? It really starts at 7 a.m. Right? So I had to learn how to be a board member. Then I had to do the job of being a board member. And now my goal is to transform the boards that I sit on to be even better than they were. And so when you do that, learn, do, transform, whether you get a job, that's sort of like your first 90-day plan. What are you going to learn about the job? What are you going to hypothesize about the job? And then you're going to do it. And then you're going to do the job for a year and a half, whatever. And then you're going to find ways to make it better than when you first got there. And that's the transform part of learn, do, transform.
Well, I've been transformed just listening to you, getting a feel for how you operate within your own scope. One thing you brought up to me, you said head, heart, guts, but because behind the scenes, like you said, when you're doing that duck paddle, you got to have some head, some heart, and guts. Because I want you to talk to our audience, specifically our Black women that are in business, that are in their careers. They're running into those headwinds. They're getting those challenges. They're starting to like, wow, this is not as easy as I thought it was going to be. And I know you've already traversed that. You talked about, the Harriet Tubman as a parable. Talk to us about head, heart, and guts for you.
Sure. Well, head, we are more than one dimension, right? We are not just a pretty face, a smiling face. We're not just a heady person, but a head is important. The head says, I understand strategy. I have business acumen. I know how to read a balance sheet. I know how to do whatever it is that the company does to make money. Heart is where you have empathy. You're not just a robot that's just doing something without looking at the human psyche. And so the empathy and the love that you have and the caring that you have for other people, the development of other people, that's all about your heart. How do you develop people to inspire them to be able to win? And then the guts says that I'm willing to challenge what's not right. I'm willing to challenge the status quo. This is how we've always done it. That doesn't mean that this is how we should always do it in the future, because I have enough intellect and I have enough savvy to realize that I can do things with guts. And so for women that are struggling, the first thing I would say is understand there's a book that's called Head, Heart, and Guts. So, I didn't make that up, but part of the thing is you've got to read. You've got to get out there and find books or topics that can inspire you to be even better. And that's why I bring up Harvey Coleman. I bring up Head, Heart, and Guts book, as you've mentioned, Grant. But I think reading is one. Number two, it's about having yourself be surrounded with stakeholders. As the African proverb says, you want to go fast, go alone, but you won't go very far unless you go together. And the way Harriet Tubman did it is she brought people along. People that couldn't make the slavery run on them, slavery escape by themselves. They needed somebody like Harriet to help them, and then they went together in a group to allow them to go far. So I would say for the women, you are going to have downward pressure. You are going to have people that don't believe that you can handle $100 million budget or a $10 million budget, because you may look more like somebody who takes care of somebody's children, right? That's what happened to me. Or somebody who should be on a pancake box. That's what happened to me. They did not believe that I had the ability to manage, my business. And I've been mistaken in other meetings for being an admin assistant. When I walk into the room, somebody said, you know what? I don't think this is the right room for you. We're waiting for, Vice President Daphne Jones. And I said, hi, that would be me. So, things happen, things will happen, but you have to not take that personally. You got to take that information strategically and use that information to put back into your plan that you have. And you have to have a plan, but having stakeholders in your corner is going to be important. As they say, not everybody that's in your circle is in your corner. Your boss may be in your circle, but will your boss be there when you're in trouble? Will your boss be in your corner when you retreat and the bell rings and you need to get some water and get your cut mended? And so having stakeholders like, role models, mentors, sponsors, accountability buddies, and coaches, those are at least 5 people. And they don't have to all work for you, work with you, work in your company. They can be in your community. They can be in your church. They can be in your civic organization. They can be anybody, and they can be Black, white, male, female, etc. So find people that are where you are going to be, where you want to be, and they're already there. Find them on LinkedIn. Link in with them, follow them, ask them questions about how they made it through a particular situation. Trust and believe you're not the first person that has had the issue that you're encountering. There are people that'll help show you the way of how to get there, much like Harriet Tubman showed the enslaved people. North is that way, and this is how we're going to be free. So there are people that can do the very same thing. Do not be discouraged. Do not be angry. Do not quit. Think like a company thinks. When a company loses an employee to competition, they don't cry. They don't go to that other company and bang on their door and say, give me my employee back. They take that information as data and they say, why did they quit? Did they quit because we have bad policies around how we promote people or whatever? And they do an internal assessment. Or did they say, no, they quit because they live closer to the new company? So nothing personal here. So find a way to understand that take that feedback strategically, but use your resources and do not be alone.
Love that. Great advice. Great advice. I know you've got some things that are coming up and around your book. And this is the question I want to ask you, because you've been on this journey now. You released your book, I believe, in the beginning of Q4. We're in the Q1 now. You've been on this road for like 3 months. I know a lot of people that watch the show either are in the development of a book, or maybe they're producing a book, or maybe people are thinking about doing a book. What have you learned through this whole process?
Wow. How much time do we have? So I've learned that writing a book is one thing. Launching a book is something else altogether. It took me a while to write the book, and I was under my own time frame and all that. The minute I got a publisher, all of a sudden they wanted the book by a certain date, and they didn't care what boards I was on. They didn't care anything. They just said, you want it. So writing a book and launching it, I'll put those together, even though they're kind of separate. It's very invasive. And again, I say that if you're using a national publisher. McGraw-Hill was my publisher. I did not self-publish. If you self-publish, you may not have the same pressure on time, which may not be good for you. It may be great for you. I needed something to push me, because otherwise it would take me another 10 years to publish it. If I didn't have somebody saying, okay, Daphne, we need it by January 1st, 2022. And so I've learned it's very invasive. I've learned that you have multiple work streams that you have to engage in. It's not just giving the book to the publisher and say, here, God bless you. I had to go through 5 edits. So there's an editing work stream. So while you're doing the editing work stream, you also have to do the PR aspect, because, while I'm editing, I want people to know the book is coming. I can't wait until I'm 100% done with all 5 edits and then tell people the book is coming. So while you're doing one work stream of editing, you're doing another work stream of public relations. Well, then what does that mean? Well, those are the people that get you on Good Morning America, or that get you on Bloomberg Radio, or on Fortune Magazine, and all those things that I had to do. And so while you are hiring a person, that costs money. Every month you hire a PR firm. And then while they're doing their thing, they're getting you on these shows. You now have to show up for these shows. You now have to prepare for the Grant Mcgaugh shows and the Bloomberg shows. And they're almost every day. And there's sometimes 2 a day. So you've got a work stream of the publisher and the editing. You got a work stream of public relations. You got a work stream of getting ready to talk on those different shows. And then you have to do your brand work. Like, I want to be on Instagram. I want to be known on Facebook. I got to be known on Twitter. Well, who's going to write those tweets for you? Who's going to write those posts for you? Who's going to take the videos of you talking in an audience? And so there's so many aspects of it, because at the end of the day, you want your book to not just be written and published, you want it to be read. Yeah, and if there's nobody to read your book, then what have you done it for? And so everything about launching a book is about, how do you optimize the ability for this book to be read? And my last point is, I'll never forget, it was a great highlight of my life. My book was in the window of Barnes and Nobles on Fifth Avenue, New York City, during the Christmas shopping season, December 13th to the 26th. And I was delighted that they did that. But that didn't just happen. I had to find a way to win. I said, here's my goal. I envisioned that I want my book to be in the window of Barnes and Noble. I had to design an approach for how they were going to put me in the window. I had to make sure 500 books were sold through Barnes and Nobles, which I did. And then when things went wrong, I iterated it, and then I transformed into being in the window at Barnes and Noble. So I use my own edit methodology to be able to get into the window and transform where my book was. And so it's a lot to being an author. I am doing a video series called Let's Write a Book, and I've done about 5 videos so far, and Grant has encouraged me to keep going, because he says that you guys might want to know more about what I went through, through every step of the way. So that's one thing that I got going on. And then there's the January 25th event.
Yeah, and that's down here in the South Florida area. I think it's Fort Lauderdale on the 25th that you'll be live, right?
Yeah, there's the General Provision is the name of the company in downtown Fort Lauderdale. It's on the 25th at 6 p.m. And I'm going to be showing that girl right there. When they say you won't. So I hope everybody will join me 6 p.m. at General Provision, downtown Fort Lauderdale, on January 25th.
So help us out here with how to contact you, because you mentioned Instagram. One thing I got from you that I love, I had to do it myself. You've got a link tree. The link tree, I love. Tell us about the link tree.
You know what? There were days during my launch. My book launched November 15th. And Grant, I was at 3 different events on the 15th. I was at TD Ameritrade at the New York Stock Exchange. I was on so many different programs and events and books and magazines and TV shows and whatnot. And I said, how does people that follow me get to see everything that I've done? Because if you miss the Instagram reel for that day, it's over, right? You don't know. And so the link tree allows you, so you can look at Daphne Jones Official link tree. And if you go to Daphne Jones Official link tree, you'll see all of the Al Sharpton show, the WPIX TV, Fortune, Forbes, Inc. magazine, Urban magazine. I'm not sure if I made it in there yet. But yeah, Linktree allows you to just look at everything, whether it's written or podcast or audio, visual, whatever. And you're able to see what I've done and kind of get an idea of how I think. And hopefully it'll be a blessing to you guys as well.
Oh, it's been a big blessing, because you have the Follow the Brand TV show. in your link tree. I saw that. I was like, wow, this is great. I'm sure you're gonna have the Black Business Network. You're gonna add that to your link tree. I know we
Yeah.
had a question that came up. They want to ask, when is the Daphne E. Jones movie coming out?
Well, thank you very much. I wish that were in my sights, but it's not. But you never know. I do have somebody who is looking to create a doll. So we'll talk about that at some point.
Well, I think, so now we're putting it in as a vision, right, on your vision board that you didn't think about, because your story is a movie, but it's inspirational, because you talked about on our show last time that you grew up. First of all, you're from Jamaica. Your parents are Jamaican immigrants. You came here as a little girl. You were in a very depressed area called Phoenix, Illinois. I think it's outside of Chicago. So when you look
Yep.
at those beginnings, and you're surrounded by people that are, into alcohol and drugs and crime and high unemployment, and all, and you're like, you're going to join that scenery, but you ended up getting to a whole nother scene. Talk to me just one, because we got a minute here, about how your mother helped to frame your mind so you did not get caught up in
Yeah.
that into that set.
Well, my mom and dad were Jamaican. They came to the United States to hopefully for us to grab the brass ring. My mom cleaned bedpans in the hospital, and my dad worked on the assembly line in manufacturing, midnight shift. And my mom said to me, Daphne, you always have to think above your current circumstance, your lived reality. Think above that, and whatever, however you think, that will draw you to a higher place. And so she always told me that whoever had my mind had me. If excellence has my mind, then excellence will have me. I will be excellent. If that knucklehead down the street that's smoking drugs has my mind, then I will be that knucklehead down the street that's smoking drugs. And so she basically said, you got to make your decision as to where you want to be. And I said, Mommy, I want to win. I want to level up. I want to grow up. I want to be something special. And so she said, then you can. But so her was in one ear, but then my counselor said, no, you ain't nothing. You can only be a secretary. Don't go to college. So these warring words were in my head, but mommy won.
She did. She won big. Do you ever go back to Jamaica and hang out with your family out there?
Yeah, I mean, we go back to Jamaica a lot. My husband's also Jamaican, but we don't hang out with the family because, sometimes they'll make us want to, pluck the chickens that they kill or, whatever. So the family, we stay at Sandals. We don't go back to the homestead. But, a lot of them are grown up and we don't necessarily know a lot of them, quite frankly, in
I'm gonna
Jamaica.
ask
My
you this one
sister-in-law,
last
Grace,
question. One last
sister-in-law, Grace
question
Jones
is,
lives in Jamaica.
as you
Um,
go back to Jamaica and you see where your family is from, your roots, and you see what you've been able to accomplish, how proud of you of yourself?
hmm. I guess I'm proud of myself, but I think about the learn all you can phase of life, the earn all you can phase of life, and return all you can phase of life. I'm in that return all I can phase of life. I will be more proud if people in Jamaica read my book or people in Jamaica have me talk to them about how I do it so that they can do it too. And
Mhm.
because a lot of, Jamaica is a third world country, it's still somewhat depressed and has challenges and the people in it. And I would love for my family to not only be proud of me, but to pick themselves up and do some of the things that I have in my book. Then I'd really be proud of me.
Well, we're going to make them, we want to give them the opportunity through visibility, these type of shows that you can stream your experience so that we can gain, so someone doesn't have our mind that's going into, a whole negative direction, that they see a positive light, and there's not just one person. They can say, wow, this person came from circumstances just like mine, or even worse off, or they're at another. You can see different levels, as you said, reiterations of Daphne E. Jones. You can see
That's
the,
right.
the you know the 10-year-old, the 20-year-old, the 30, the 40, and so forth, and you see these different reiterations. Like, wow, yeah, I used to be that version. Yeah, she was
That's
cute,
right.
but here I am now. I'm even a better version of myself.
Grant, you just said it so perfectly. You have to know what your market wants. What does your market think is valuable to them? And then be that thing. Within your industry. If you're a doctor, be the greatest doctor. If you're a post office person, be the great. But what is your market? If you're a postal clerk, what does your postal clerk market and audience want from you? Be the best that you can. And then always find a way to have the latest and greatest, and then you level up every time.
Yeah.
And that is the mindset that I want everybody to have, because we can do it.
That is wonderful that you've been able to level up. I mean, you were in Chicago, and then you're in New York City, you're in Miami right now. I mean, you've been working in some of the most competitive markets in the world. And that's that staying power. I mean, like I see I think the average CEO has a shelf life of like
3
3.5
years.
years or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, you got to hit the ground running, running, and you got to fit into their program if you're part of their team, right? And how that all happens, because it's a hustle and bustle. I don't think a lot of people realize that.
Yeah.
It's like being an NFL coach. You got to win and win consistently, and then when you don't have that winning season, boom, you got to be on to the next.
And you have to know what winning is. We know how you score a point in basketball is different than how you score a point in football. So are you in a football game, or are you in a basketball game, or are you in a swimming meet, right? And so you have to know what kind of game you're playing in. Who is some of the best MVPs, and let me follow them. I talk about being a copycat. It's cool to be a copycat as long as the cat you're copying is cool, right? So if I'm in basketball, I guess I'll follow LeBron, right? If I was a swimmer, I guess I would follow Michael Phelps back in the day. And so what does he do? What does winning look like in a swimmer? What does winning look like in a basketball game, in the team member? So when you copycat, if you don't know a person, copy their methodology. What does winning look like? How does winning dress? How does winning eat? What does winning read? Right? Find those things. And when you understand that, then you'll be able to be that person who outlives the norm. I was the one that got away. I was dreaming things that Black women should not dream about. I was dreaming things that white people should be dreaming about. Being a systems engineer, writing code, implementing technology. That was not what Black girls should have been dreaming about. And so I had to follow those people that were doing that, and I learned how to do it.
How did you have a role model that was a Black female in your industry? Did you have someone that you were looking up to?
I didn't. They say that if you're going to be it, you got to see it. Well, I didn't see it. I mean, I saw a woman that was in technology, and then we would all get together. When I say we, a bunch of us from different parts of IBM around the country would come together in Atlanta, but they were learning just like I was learning. So I think there was like one or two other people of color that were in that same class, but they were learning like I was learning. So I ended up, there was a really, really, really high yellow brother that was a branch manager at IBM in Peoria. His name was Roscoe Adams. So he was sort of my role model. And because he was a manager, he taught me some things that had stayed with me through my life, but no female of color role model. But then I realized that if I don't have it, then I got to use what I have. Who's here? Who is winning? And to me, innovation has no color. Winning has no gender. It's about taking the best that people have out of them and trying to infuse that into yourself. And, like I say, take in the meat and spit out the bones. Not everything a person does is great. So take in the great parts of what they do and then spit out the bones of the bad things that they do that won't be helpful for you. And so that is how you do it. And yeah, you won't always have people that look like you around you, but find the best that's there and mirror them without being fake. You still have to be your authentic self.
Right.
But there's some behaviors, there's some mindsets that aren't racially oriented, that aren't sexually oriented, they're business oriented. So take those mindsets that are business oriented and then put that in yourself. But if it's something else about race and Martin Luther King or whatever, be yourself, but understand what game you're playing and what it takes to win.
Well, you have a platform and you have a passion and you have some goals because you're in this game that you're playing right now. And there's one other thing I definitely want you, and you touched on these things along the way. That's situational awareness and emotional intelligence. Knowing how to play, you're in the game. To give us either a parable or a story where it's a challenge. This is the everyday situation, whether you're in a boardroom, you're in business, it's a business discussion. Things are heated, things are there. You've got to now employ what you know or who you are and how you've embodied emotional intelligence and situational awareness to win.
Yeah. So there's something that's actually in the book, and it's happened to me. So that's why it's in the book, is I would be in a meeting. And actually, I may have two. How much time do I have for this question?
Right now, we're good.
Okay. There's two things I want to share. One is I would be in a meeting and I would say something that I might think was pretty smart, and it wouldn't get any response. 10 minutes later, a guy in the same meeting that I'm in says the same thing, and he darn near gets a standing ovation. Now, what is that?
Yeah.
And so that happens to women a lot, where we're repeated and our voices aren't heard. We talk about dropping the mic. We shouldn't drop our mics, but a lot of times women even though they're holding the mic, they don't get heard. So what I do and recommend that happens, this is emotional intelligence, says, you know what, John, that was a great, you were able to articulate my comment almost perfectly. So thank you for that. Thank you for that. But I do want to make one more point on top of that point that I made before. So if you said that something was red and then he said, oh, that thing is red, you're going to say, thank you, John. That's exactly how I articulated it before. It is red, but I'm going to add one more point to it. It's more like a burgundy. I don't know. I'm making this up. So you find a way to take back that idea that was really yours originally, and then you build on it. So now you solidify the ownership of that idea, because now you've added a second point on top of that. That's the first point I was going to raise. And you do it, and you make Jack feel good about the fact that he got some credit. He didn't get credit for the idea. He got credit for articulating the idea well, because it was my idea. That's one. Number two thing I was going to share was something called wait. Now, when I'm talking, sometimes people don't listen because you are talking too much. Every time they turn around, there goes your hand up again. I got another question. I got another point, I'm trying to raise. And so when you do that, which is what happened to me a long time ago, I had a guy come up to me and says, Daphne, you need to learn how to wait. And I'm like, wait, what do you mean wait? Where are we going? Who are we waiting for? And he said, wait stands for why am I talking? And you need to ask yourself that question, because you're talking a lot and you're not giving other people the opportunity to either ask a question or make the comment in an appropriate way. And so when I went back and thought about it, I said, okay, well, from now on, I'm going to write my questions down. So in the moment of the heat of the moment, I'm going to write the question down. I'm going to look at those questions and I'm going to see which ones of these questions are most important. And then I'm only going to speak about once every 40 minutes, maybe once every 45 minutes. So, and then I discovered that people then would ask the questions that I had written down, right? So then it gave them a chance to ask the question instead of me having to ask them all. And then it made me a better listener. It made me a better contributor. And I find that wait also works at home. When my husband's yelling at me, I can decide, do I want to answer him back? Do I want to back at him? I'm like, I'm going to wait. I have to say, will what I have to say will it be helpful? Will it be truthful? Will it improve on the silence that it's interrupting? Will it help my marriage? And if the answer is no, then I just learn how to wait. And then the argument blows over. So, and the Bible says a soft answer turneth away wrath. So, sort of what wait is all about.
I love that statement. Very, 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 very good. I see Naomi is back. First of all, thank you very much, Daphne. This has been a great, great, great show. Hi,
Thank
Naomi.
you.
Hello, Grant and Daphne. Thank you so much for such an awesome conversation on making your way when other people tell you you can't. Just some valuable knowledge that you've
Thank
shared
you.
with us. And before you leave us, can you just make sure that people know how to get in touch with you, your email, website, which whatever method is works best for you?
Sure, that's a great question. Thank you. I'm at Daphne. Email for me is Daphne, Daphne, at Daphne E. Jones, sort of how it's spelled on the screen, DaphneEJones.com. Daphne at DaphneEJones.com. My website is DaphneEJones.com. And then the board curators is www.theboardcurators.com. And if you guys, I appreciate you following me on Instagram. I am going to be doing some live events starting on Wednesdays. So I'd love for you all to hear more about what's happening in the book. And that is Daphne Jones Official is my IG page. So please come on and join me and let's start this movement together.
Thank you so much. Genius is common, and I will see you on the other side.
Tune in for our next show or click on our website at www.5starbdm/followthebrandtv. Thank you. The 5-Star BDM LinkedIn Social Selling course can help you stand out and attract the right connections and opportunities. We will help you professionally create your profile, provide personalized recommendations for improvement, and help you create and share engaging content to help you showcase your skills and expertise. Our 5-step course makes connecting with industry experts, finding job opportunities, and building meaningful relationships easy. Social selling can be an effective way for you to generate leads and close deals, but it does have its challenges. Our course will help you solve the problems associated with digital networking. If you need help personalizing your outreach and messaging, which can lead to low response rates and a lack of engagement. If you need help targeting the right prospects, this course is for you. With so much noise on social media, it can be challenging to cut through the clutter and get your message in front of the right people. Our course will personalize your messaging using our targeting tools and research. You can identify and reach the right prospects. We will also show how to deliver high quality, valuable content that attracts and engages prospects and clients. The 5-Star BDM LinkedIn Social Selling course will address these challenges by implementing best practices. As a result, you can improve your social selling efforts and generate better results. Are you looking to improve your LinkedIn profile and reach a wider audience? Social selling is an effective way for you to generate leads and close deals, but it does have its challenges. Some common problems we saw with social selling include lack of visibility. If your profile is not optimized or you're not actively participating in groups or sharing content, it can be difficult to get noticed on LinkedIn. Number 2, lack of personalization. Some businesses struggle with personalizing their outreach and messaging, which can lead to low response rates and a lack of engagement. Also, difficulty targeting the right prospects. It can be difficult to identify and target the right prospects on social media, especially if you don't have access to robust targeting tools. And number 4, outdated content. If your LinkedIn profile or content is not up to date, it can give the impression that you're not actively engaged on the platform or that your skills and experience are not current. And lastly, poor quality content and not leveraging video and picture to convey ideas. To solve these problems, the 5-Star BDM LinkedIn Optimization Social Selling video course will help you focus on personalizing your outreach and messaging to better connect with prospects. In module number 1, the foundation, we will help you create high quality, valuable profile that will attract and engage. In module 2, the story, optimizing your LinkedIn profile to make sure it is complete, accurate, and visually appealing. In module number 3, the experience, using your targeting tools and research to identify and reach out to the right prospects. In module number 4, engagement, establishing a consistent follow-up process to nurture leads and build relationships over time. And lastly, in number 5, execution. Understand the metrics to help you measure your brand effectiveness. By addressing these challenges and implementing best practices, you will improve your social selling with the 5-star BDM LinkedIn Optimization Social Selling course. Listen to what others have said about 5-star BDM.
Grant, I'll tell you why I'm here, right? I'm here because I love your brand. When we started chatting on LinkedIn, we connected. I checked you out and I go, man, this guy knows what he's talking about.
You were definitely instrumental in helping to shape that knowledge of who I am, because at first I thought, well, I am an actress, I am a writer, I am a producer, I am a speaker. And so I said, well, I must be a creative communicator. I know that there is a narrative thread here, but you nailed it when you said you are a storyteller. So you brought it all together in this cohesive title.
Sign up today to improve your social selling opportunities.